when we first started, it wasn't very good. I think we were spending probably like $8 or $9 per subscriber on Facebook, which was crazy. And then we would recoup some of that with SparkLoop. But now we've got it down quite a bit to where really we're kind of in arbitrage mode, to where we're spending less per subscriber on Facebook than we are making through SparkLoop. So really we're making money to grow it. I mean, it's better than growing for free.
Welcome to the Set and Grow podcast. I'm your host, Dylan Redekop. In my day job here at SparkLoop, I spend all my time analyzing how the best newsletter operators and media brands in the world grow and monetize their audiences. I get a behind-the-scenes look at how they're growing their newsletters and driving revenue every day. And there is so much to learn from their success and from their mistakes. And with this podcast, you get that access too. Every week I sit down with a different guest, from industry experts to successful operators, and we go deep on the stuff that you need to know about so you can become really effective at growing and monetizing your newsletter. In today's episode, we're doing something a little bit different. I'm excited to introduce not one, but two guests on the show, Colton Sakamoto and Tyler Parker. They're the dynamic duo behind the Office Party newsletter. Office Party is more than just a newsletter. It's a curated guide for career advancement, tackling everything from job market trends to the impact of AI on employment. What's unique about Colton and Tyler's approach is their partnership in managing and growing their newsletter. It's a path much less traveled in the newsletter world. Today we'll explore how they started Office Party as a partnership, how they leveraged each other's networks to grow Office Party faster, how they divide and conquer day-to-day responsibilities, and when they think you should or shouldn't add a partner to your newsletter business. Colton, Tyler, great to have you both here. Let's kick things off by diving into the story behind Office Party and how you two collaborate.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thanks for having us on, first of all. So I graduated college. I played baseball in college, and then got a job working in mortgage sales right after college. So kind of got some experience on the sales side, but didn't really love it. And then transitioned into just doing personal training in the morning. Colton and I had been friends since high school, or maybe before, through baseball, and kind of had the idea to put a newsletter together, and then brainstormed a little bit, and that's basically how it came to life about 7 months ago or so.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. How about you, Colton? What were you up to before starting up Office Party?
Yeah, my name's Colton Sakamoto. Long and short, right out of college, I co-founded an employment-focused startup. So we had like a job board, training program, recruiting agency. Scaled that pretty quickly, raised some outside capital. And one thing that I really learned in that process is that I just enjoy the employment space. I enjoy sharing information about helping people get jobs. I enjoy helping people get jobs. So I stepped down last year around this time, started writing on LinkedIn, just sharing pieces of information that I had picked up over those past couple of years and helping thousands of people start new jobs. That gained traction pretty quickly on LinkedIn, and then I thought it might be beneficial to own the audience more directly through a newsletter, build up distribution through a newsletter, and share information that people want, stories that people want, cover layoffs, cover how AI is impacting jobs and things like that. So long and short, that's sort of how we came up with the idea to launch Office Party.
So you guys were chucking baseballs around. That's exactly what you do on a baseball field, I know. Yeah.
Exactly.
And you just were like, hey, let's start a newsletter? Or how did it, what was the conversation? How did you decide to, co-run this thing?
Yeah, I think we both have a passion, for helping people, and especially pertaining to helping people find jobs. And we realized, looking at a number of other newsletters, there's plenty of great publications out there, but none that really, we feel like, do a good job covering stuff pertaining to careers. And that information is available on your timeline on X, on LinkedIn, but sort of hard to verify what's true. Information is very spread out. So we take a very curated approach of covering sort of the best and most interesting stories that people want to know, and we put that together.
Nice. So what is it?
Yeah, and I guess I left it out
ahead,
too,
Tyler.
but I ran a job board as well before. It wasn't super successful or anything, but I was writing on LinkedIn as well. So Colton and I both had kind of decent followings on LinkedIn. And it kind of sounds weird to say it like that, to own and monetize your audience, but that's really what what it is. People found value in the stuff that we were saying, so we figured we could continue it in a newsletter.
Yeah, I've heard, people who kind of shut out the term about owning the audience. Is like really what you're owning. You own the distribution, right? Because with algorithms, you don't own that
Right.
control. You have no control really over that. You can post as much as your heart's content, but when it comes to actually owning the distribution, that's where email and a newsletter becomes kind of your the main thing, the thing that you need to leverage. So talk to me about, you guys start the newsletter. Talk to me about a day in the life or a day in the week, because you guys publish twice a week, the office party. What is a week in the life of the office party look like? Who's responsible for what?
Yeah, so it's when we first got into it, I think we kind of had the understanding I was going to maybe try to do kind of the sales side, and Colton was going to do the content side. But we talked about it at first, and then what it's came to now is I kind of do all the research for the newsletter. So throughout the week, I'm reading stories. I'm subscribed to a million different newsletters, kind of in the space, trying to find stories that I think our audience would like. And Colton and I have like shared files that we'll send each other stuff through. So I'm kind of always browsing and reading, and then we just have a Notion page to where I'll basically just sum up the stories and then get images that fit with the stories too, and throw them in there. And then Colton kind of wraps it up, basically finishes it, puts a bow tie on it, and then writes the actual newsletter and gets it scheduled to send out.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a pretty streamlined process to where, it doesn't take us a ton of time because we've kind of split responsibilities, at least on the writing piece of it. So Tyler does a great job of finding like interesting stories. And our basic criteria there is obviously it's, career related. So layoffs, how AI is impacting jobs, companies that are hiring. But really, even more than that, it's just stories that we find interesting that we think other people will find interesting as well. There's one story that we did where a company, I'm not sure if it was for a publicity stunt, but they hired a robot CEO. And so we wrote about that. So just like ridiculous stuff like that people, will find some enjoyment from, and hopefully some relevant takeaways. And then to add on the ad sales side, I mean, we both kind of split that burden. And the ad sales process is very manual and tedious. And so we both sort of split that responsibility between the two of us.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask next, is how you agreed on, roles, and ad sales would definitely be a part of it, as well as growth too, right? Like deciding on how you want to grow the newsletter, whether it be organic or paid. So how did you come up with the roles and responsibilities? Tyler, you mentioned at the beginning you were going to do one thing, then it turned out you ended up doing more of the research stuff. So was it just more of a sort of a natural progression of things, or was it something you guys kind of outlaid in advance?
Yeah, well, ad sales was our original plan for how we were going to monetize, and we didn't really expect to have any sales until we were at least probably 10,000 subscribers, which we're probably just going to pass today.
Congrats.
Actually. But thank you. But we from the audiences that we had on LinkedIn, we got a bit of inbound interest basically right away from people in companies that wanted to advertise in the newsletter. So we talked to each other. We said, yeah, I mean, if there's already interest, we can let them advertise, figure out a fair price. And then now let's start looking at other companies that are either advertising in different newsletters, or anytime I see like an ad pop up on Facebook or LinkedIn, I screenshot it and then go try to find people that work in marketing at that company and email them. And so that's kind of how it came to be. And then it was kind of just organic. We just both shared that responsibility.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, we're so early in our process and our creation of Office Party that we're very scrappy, and it's very much, a lot of times we're both doing the same things. I think if you were to kind of categorize our responsibilities, I would say we both do ad sales. We both focus on growth pretty heavily. I do the writing. He does the research and the content creation. So it's very much a teamwork approach. And I think the other interesting piece of that I think listeners will find valuable is every week we meet to go over growth for about 30 minutes to an hour, where we have like a pretty solid system in place where we're tracking our Facebook ads, we're tracking our SparkLoop earnings. We're very methodical about how we advertise, how we spend. We don't have any massive budgets or anything like that, but we've created a really strong system to know exactly how much how many subscribers we can expect, how much we can earn off of SparkLoop, and how much we can grow week
So
over
how
week.
have you been growing predominantly the newsletter?
Yeah, so initially that kind of 0 to 1,000 phase was very manual. We were reaching out to people on LinkedIn. We were posting on LinkedIn. We did a couple like sort of what I'd categorize as publicity stunts, to where I changed my title to Chief Party Officer. And like if you change your title on LinkedIn, it notifies everyone. And then I plugged the newsletter under it and said, if you're looking for career information, subscribe to this newsletter. And so that type of stuff really brought in a lot of subscribers right off the gate. And then it was a matter of manually reaching out to people. Our connections on LinkedIn, I think I have 20,000. I think Tyler has something like 12. And we were just reaching out to as many people as possible. It was super tedious, but it converted pretty well. And it gave us sort of that initial, piece of growth. Tyler does a really good job, and I'll let him talk about this, posting in Facebook groups, which I think listeners will find really interesting. Good way for free growth, and then you can monetize, with SparkLoop from that. And then the key piece as of lately has been, Facebook or meta ads. We've found a pretty solid way to, get the CPA down quite a bit, and then make some money off of SparkLoop on the back end of that.
Cool. Yeah, I'd love to hear, Tyler, your info on that.
Yeah, that first little bit, like Colton said, was kind of just all manual and telling people about it on LinkedIn. But then I joined a bunch of Facebook groups. Our audience is predominantly people that work in HR and recruiting and stuff. So I joined a bunch of Facebook groups like that, and then I would just find posts, and anytime I'm scrolling, if people had a question or a comment or something, I would kind of just answer it genuinely. Or sometimes they'd have a question about like a specific law or something, and I wouldn't know the answer, but I just Google the answer real quick and find it and give them an answer, and then plug the newsletter, say, hey, by the way, here's a great newsletter that covers these sorts of topics as well. And from that, we'd already had SparkLoop set up. So every time I'd post something, we'd get maybe 5 to 10 people that would subscribe from a comment like that. Sometimes they'd go viral in the bigger groups, and we'd get more. But from that, with SparkLoop, we'd make between like $2 and $3 per subscriber. So we were already making money for free like that. So it was pretty organic. We really didn't need a lot of money to start it up. I think Colton and I deposited maybe like $1,000 to start off, and then it was all kind of organic like that at first. And then now, like Colton said, we've kind of nailed down our Facebook ads. So when we first started, it wasn't very good. I think we were spending probably like $8 or $9 per subscriber on Facebook, which was crazy. And then we would recoup some of that with SparkLoop, but now we've got it down quite a bit to where really we're kind of in arbitrage mode. Nice. To where we're spending less per subscriber on Facebook than we are making through SparkLoop. So really we're making money to grow it. I mean, it's better than growing for free. So we've kind of just slowly kind of turned up the spending and fine-tuned the Facebook ads that way, and basically skyrocketed the growth like that.
Right. And I mean, I think we'd be remiss not to mention that Colton is a SparkLoop employee as well. So he's kind of got the inside track on how to leverage SparkLoop the best in terms of the paid recommendations that we're just talking about with Upscribe, as well as partner programs for growth too. So we don't need to necessarily get into too much detail with that, but I thought maybe that would be a good thing to mention here. So Colton, did you have any?
He wasn't when we first started.
Oh, that's true. That is true. Yeah. You guys started Office Party several months before Colton started with SparkLoop. So, Now we talked a little bit about your roles and responsibilities. We've talked about a little bit about your growth with Office Party and what you're doing there. What do you think are the biggest benefits of having a newsletter business partner? Like, I guess extract Colton out of the mix, and vice versa, Colton extract Tyler out of the mix. Like, and imagine doing it all yourself, and then that might help formulate your answer. Are two heads really better than one, and is it kind of more of an exponential thing there?
Yeah, I think it's a matter of streamlining and creating good processes that really cut down on the time it takes to publish a newsletter. It can be tedious to write a newsletter, but if you have someone that you're doing it with and you're collaborating with, it makes the writing process more fun and enjoyable. but also, quite quicker. Another thing that's helpful too is just putting our heads together around strategy, for growth. I think two people are often better than one, when it comes
Yeah.
to ideation and strategy.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's definitely the two heads specifically are better than one because the work aspect of it, it's not a crazy amount of work or anything besides, manually emailing and trying to sell ads and stuff, but being able to bounce ideas off of each other and try out different things. Um, and if I have an idea that sucks that I think would be good and I would have probably implemented it if I was by
Right.
myself, to have Colton to say, no, let's not do that. Um, and basically perfect our process is a lot better. And sometimes we both have ideas that suck and it doesn't work, and then we just fix it in our weekly meeting the next
Yeah.
week. Um, but having a partner to bounce things off of has definitely been an advantage.
And so, what are the biggest challenges then with co-running a newsletter? I imagine giving up a little bit of that sort of independence to some degree. Like if you have an idea and you want to run with it, but your co-founder says no, that can be frustrating. But how do you guys navigate those challenges?
Yeah, I don't think it's really been a challenge at all. Tyler's someone who works hard and has high integrity, and I think both of those things are important in someone you look for in who's gonna lead a business with you. So not too many challenges. I think not always on the same page, which is just sort of
Yeah.
natural in something like this. But I think generally we split the workload, pretty well, and we've really streamlined our processes to where we're pretty efficient and running pretty well.
Yeah, we really haven't had any major challenges. I think one thing that Colton and I both really appreciate in terms of the newsletter coming from backgrounds in baseball is the kind of instant feedback we can get. So if we try like a new time to send the newsletter and it doesn't work, we know within a few hours that okay, we can't send it at 2 o'clock anymore. We got to send it at a different time. And so we've played around with stuff like that, stuff like A/B testing subject lines with an emoji at the beginning or the
Mm.
end, just kind of random things like that, and being able to get instant feedback and know, okay, let's talk about this the next time, and kind of really fine tune that and come up with the best process and the best way to be able to do it through both of us is something that I think we both appreciate a lot.
Awesome. And do you have like a specific way of tracking those things, or like a document, or how do you go about, let's say you're running these tests, and then you have the results come in that relatively instant feedback. How do you document that? How do you go over it? Do you have it a weekly meeting doc, or how do you manage that?
Yeah, I think the best example of that would be our ad tracking. And we've created this spreadsheet. It's just in Notion, so it's nothing fancy. We're very scrappy, but every week we go through the ads that we're running, the creatives that we're running, the audience size, the CPM, CPA. We track these metrics, week over week, and it allows us to monitor, what's working, what's not. We're pretty careful not to, tweak things because it didn't
Mm-hmm.
work one week. We're pretty methodical about how we do things, and that's allowed us to take our CPA down from what Tyler mentioned earlier was ridiculously high when we
Yeah.
didn't know what we're doing. It allowed us to test different creatives, test different audiences, and things like that to get it down to where it's now anywhere in the 50 cents to $1.50 range, depending on the week and the creative. So I think in terms of systems and collaborations, that's probably the best example.
That makes sense. In terms of things to, let's see, how can I rephrase this? What are the most important things? Like if you had to start over again, you're about 6-7 months into running this newsletter, co-running a newsletter. What are the most important things you'd want to nail down first if you were to do this again with a partner? Like in terms of maybe responsibilities, financials, strategy, earnings, that sort of thing.
I think the biggest thing is really that the first probably one the first probably 1 to 2,000 subscribers, and basically figuring out how can we leverage each other's circles or audiences. I mean, you don't have to have like a big audience on LinkedIn like we do, but figuring out how can we get those first few, and then really, I mean, probably the biggest factor in terms of our success has been being able to leverage SparkLoop so that we're growing for free. I mean, because we didn't have to deposit any more money. I mean, we started it, and then because of the earnings that we were able to get through SparkLoop, we could kind of just scale it and grow it without having to stress about money. And then as far as like sharing profits or anything, we've basically agreed at the beginning to just reinvest everything into growth. I mean, 100% we're putting back into either Facebook ads or paying for
Yeah.
subscribers on SparkLoop. So, so that's been probably the biggest thing so far.
So is the newsletter now, is it making a profit? I guess if you're able to get subscribers, basically get paid to get new subscribers, I would assume that things are looking good that way.
Yeah, and we've been able to sell a pretty good number of ad slots at a decent price too. A couple of the issues there are, one, towards the end of the year, we saw ad interest slow down quite a bit. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
budgets were being used up. And two, we only write twice a week, and so that sort of limits our earning opportunities, from an ad placement standpoint. And I think to answer your earlier question about like, if we were to start over, I think what I would do is find, some additional ways to monetize outside of ads, outside of SparkLoop. Both have been great for us, but I think, if you can kind of own products and services off your newsletter that you can promote, I think, that makes income
Mm-hmm.
a lot more steady. Ad sales are good, but they're very tedious. As your newsletter subscriber count grows and you have an engaged audience, you can obviously, charge quite a bit more for advertisements. So, we're looking to do that too. But it is, a bit of a pain to manually reach out to a bunch of different contacts at a bunch of different companies, to try and sell ads.
Yeah. I've been there and I've done it. I don't question that for a second. So what would be the type of product that a newsletter like yours would be looking at? Because I assume it's something that's either kind of a productized service or, I mean, there's a few options like a paid community, a productized service, a paid newsletter, that sort of thing. Or do you guys have any ideas?
Yeah, we've thought a lot about doing stuff like that. I think services for us, we're both pretty busy right now, so I don't think that's like necessarily. I don't think it necessarily makes sense for us. We've had a lot of people who, our main focus was getting people in HR and recruiting, but a lot of people have said they want help like getting jobs, and so we've thought about doing a community or creating a product or service that makes it easier to redo your resume or write a cover letter quickly and things like that. So we're definitely thinking about a lot of those things going into the new year.
If you had to start over, what kind of characteristics, aspects, personality traits would you look for in a newsletter partner? Like if somebody's listening to this, they're running a newsletter, they want to grow it, they see the success you guys have had, kind of co-running a newsletter. What kind of traits and that sort of thing would you look for in a newsletter partner?
I would just say it's nice having somebody that I was already friends with before, because feelings don't get hurt if we don't agree, which really hasn't been a problem so far. But somebody, I guess, that is easy to work with, doesn't mind constructive criticism, and really kind of just has the same interests. Like Colton ran an employment-based startup. I ran a job board, and basically what it was we were just talking about stuff that we were interested in already. We liked seeing people get jobs and helping people like that. So it's kind of organic. We were already just talking about the stuff that we found interesting and the stuff that we liked, and then found a way to put it into a newsletter.
Yeah, for me, I think making sure that the person you do something with, has integrity, and that they're going to work hard, and that they have sort of the project's best interests in mind. Are important things for me, and for I think anyone who's looking for a co-founder to do something like this, with someone else. I think it can create challenges if it's not the right person, but I think if it is the right person, you can really streamline your processes and really grow something, quickly together. It really doesn't take us too long to publish our newsletter, and the feedback we get from our readers is really positive, generally speaking. And so I feel like we've done a good job at, sharing the workload and making a good product.
So what kind of newsletter operator do you think would, I'll ask you two questions in one. What kind of newsletter operator do you think would benefit the most from a partnership, and who wouldn't be, who isn't a newsletter partnership for?
Yeah, I mean, I think really anyone could benefit from having a partner. I know, the Morning Brew guys were a duo when they first started, and look what that's
That worked out all right.
into. And so it worked out all right. And so I think it would be a challenge to start from zero, to try and get to 1,000, 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 subscribers. Try and write and publish frequently. Try and stay up to date on everything relevant that you're writing about. Try and sell ads and monetize and all that stuff. I think if you're doing that solo, it's a bit overwhelming, and we want to take a very long-term approach to this, to where we're growing steadily and hopefully exponentially at some point. But we're in it for the long haul, and we want to make this thing work over time. We don't want to just jump on a trend and try and make something work in 1 year and then bail on it. So I think that splitting between us both allows us to take more of a long-term approach to it, to where it's not eating away at too much of our day-to-day. We can publish frequently and consistently. We can focus on growth. We can focus on ad sales, and we can maintain that long-term approach.
Right. I would say to answer the question of who is it not for, I would say somebody that just maybe feels a little bit overwhelmed with the workload of it. I would say it's probably not best to get a partner to just try to share the work, because really Colton and I both could probably do all the work on our own. But what's nice is being able to bounce things off of each other. And obviously it is nice to share the workload, but for somebody that is maybe just a little bit burnt out, it would probably be better to just hire somebody to take over some of the workload. But for Colton and I, like he mentioned, the long-term approach to it has been nice, because neither of us, I mean, it's not like we need to make $1 million right away, or we need to grow it to a huge number of subscribers right away. We're taking a longer approach that it's something we both enjoy doing, which helps a lot for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I think one thing that comes to mind for me is when operating my own newsletter, just the feeling of momentum is very valuable and very important. I find. So I could see it being helpful, or could have been helpful, having a partner when perhaps I felt like things were just slowing down, or I needed a boost or a kick in the pants or something like that, or having a partner to kind of run ideas by, or bounce what I'm feeling off of, or to kind of be that somebody I don't want to let down as well would be an important thing, because sometimes we're easy to let ourselves down, but we don't want to let somebody else down. So I could see that being something just almost intrinsically that could be helpful, having a partner in crime.
Yeah, no doubt. And there's an old saying that I'm going to butcher, which is if you want to go fast, go by yourself. If you want to go far, go with the team or go with someone else. And I think that's very much applicable here.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point too, about not wanting to let somebody else down. I mean, there are definitely days to where I'm tired and I don't really feel like reading 10 articles or whatever to get the research up. But having a partner, there's definitely an aspect of accountability.
Yeah, I think that's really important. Okay, so we'll be wrapping it up here, but I want to know what you guys think. When should someone consider finding a partner? Is it like, I have an idea for a newsletter, I should find a partner? Is it, I've written 10 editions, I've started earning revenue? Is there a specific time when someone should consider finding a partner to kind of co-run their newsletter?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think there's really two approaches to it. The first being okay, I want to start this newsletter. I want to partner with someone who is complementary to my skill set, who's going to hold me accountable who I can trust that, we're going to do this together. I think the other approach, which you alluded to, Dylan, which is like, I've already started my newsletter. I found out I'm really good at X, Y, and Z, but I'm not good at A, B, and C. Let me go find someone who's good at A, B, and C, who likes doing that, where it's, not a 1 + 1 = 2, but a 1 + 1 = 3 or X, scenario, to where, the sky's the limit with the partnership.
Yeah, I think probably I would say the inception phase is probably the time to do it. It might get a little bit weird if you're already into it a little bit and then you ask somebody to come on board. I don't think it's impossible, but knowing what I know from how we've done it, probably if you have an idea that you think somebody could be complimentary to you, mention it to them, and if they're on board, then I think the best time would probably be right at the start.
Yeah, I think that you're both on the same path right at the the beginning trajectory, right? Alignment's important, accountability is important, all that stuff. So I think that's probably some pretty sound advice. Well, guys, thank you for coming on. Really love talking about all things newsletter, for lack of a better term, newsletter partnerships, business partners with newsletters. You're the first tag team duo that we've had on the podcast. If I'm remembering correctly. So thanks for coming on. Let the audience know where they can find each of you. Why don't, Colton, you share your share where we can find you online and where we can find the office party, and then Tyler, you can wrap it up.
Yep. I'm on Twitter. I haven't posted much on that recently. I think I'm CJ Sakamoto 15. I'm more active on LinkedIn. It's just my name, Colton Sakamoto, and then office party is joinofficeparty.com.
Yep, and same. I'm active on LinkedIn, just Tyler Parker, and then just the newsletter. If you're interested in employment news and memes and stuff like that, then I think you'd probably like the newsletter.
Yeah, it's I'm not looking for a job currently, but I still enjoy the memes for sure. That's the one of the main things I look forward to when it hits my inbox. So you guys are doing a pretty good job with those. Tip my hat.
Thank you.
Great, guys. Well, thanks for coming on. All the best in 2024 with the office party, and we'll talk soon.
Cool. Thank you, Dylan.
Thanks, awesome. Guys. Appreciate it. Thanks for having us, Dylan.
Thanks for checking out this episode of the Send and Grow podcast. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe to show your support. And we'd love to hear your feedback, so drop a comment below letting us know your number one takeaway, or share with us who you think we should interview next. All of the links for the show are available in the description below. Thank you so much for your support, and we'll see you next time.